So here we all are again, over by the beach, hanging out at the beach by the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Sea of Tiberia. It's called a sea, but it's actually a freshwater lake, about 8 miles wide and 13 miles long. And Brenda has provided us with some water from the Sea of Galilee, fresh water. Today, in our scripture reading from John, the disciples are all gathered there together on the beach. Can you see them there, standing on the beach? Peter, Thomas, Nathaniel, James, and John, and there are 2 others there. It's hard to make out who they are. It's gotten to be later in the day, and all of a sudden, Peter stands up and announces, "I'm going fishing." And all the others stand up too, and they say, "We'll go with you." I guess that's not really surprising. They are fishermen, after all. That's how they make their living. That's how they support their families. Of course they're going to go fishing. I don't know about you. I don't think I want to go fishing right now. I'm going to stay right here on the beach and just watch. It is getting to be late in the day, though. I'm getting kind of tired, kind of drowsy. The sun is sinking lower and lower, and it's going over the horizon down below. It's getting very dark. Suddenly I hear something. I think I've been sleeping. I think I fell asleep, but I hear something. It's getting to be almost dawn now. I can see the sun just beginning to come up near the horizon. There's that mist over the water, early in the morning. And I can see the disciples. They're still out there on their boat. They're not very far away. And I'm looking. I know they've been out there all night, and I don't think they've caught a single fish. The boat looks empty. And now I'm hearing a voice off to the side. Ooh, there's somebody over there. I don't know who it is. What's that he's saying? Can you hear him? "Children, you have no fish, have you?" He's talking to the guys in the boat. And they're all saying, "No, it's been a bad night of fishing." And the strange man over here, he speaks up again. He calls out to them, "Cast your net on the right side of the boat, and you'll find some fish." I know I'm not fully awake, but come on. Seriously? Like that's going to work? But the disciples, I can see they're shrugging their shoulders. They don't care. They say, "What the heck? Let's try it. It's worth a shot." And so they toss their net on the other side of the boat, and oh my goodness, I can see so many fish. They can't even pull the net in, just like that. What is going on? One of the men in the boat, he's jumping up and down just about. He's saying, "Oh, it's the Lord." Peter's right next to him, and oh my gosh, look at him. He's pulling on some clothes. He's jumping into the water. Ugh. I don't think he's a very good swimmer. It makes me nervous when he does things like this, but I think it's pretty shallow there. Look, he's splashing through the water. He's heading over to the beach, over to where the Lord is standing. And the others, they're rowing like crazy, pulling that big, heavy net of fish behind them in the water. They're racing over to the beach. And ooh, now I smell something. Can you smell it? There's nothing like a wood fire, is there? It looks like Jesus has built a fire on the beach. Just a small one. It's kind of burning low. And now it looks like the embers are glowing. I can see it even from here. I think I want to move a little closer. Come on, let's move in a little closer. Oh, I can see now. Jesus is cooking fish. I bet it's tilapia, don't you? Because I know that's what lives in the Sea of Galilee. Jesus has got fish right there on the embers. And he's got some fresh bread, too, laid out nearby. Sounds good. He's talking again as the men pull closer and come up onto the beach. What's that he's saying? Must be something really deep and profound. What? Let's listen in. What's he saying? Come and have breakfast. Well, that wasn't really as profound as I was expecting, but I'm kind of hungry. It's been a long night, aren't you? And the smell of the wood and the food, a little breakfast might go down well. And the guys, they look like they're pretty happy about it. Bread and fish at the beach. I feel like I've seen this before. It's bringing back some memories. Remember that time when Jesus fed 5,000 people with just the bread and fish from that kid's school box, lunchbox? It's a happy memory. But look at Peter. It doesn't look like he's having a happy time. I think he's on his knees before Jesus. I think this has triggered another memory for him, a memory of another charcoal fire not that long ago. Remember that? It was at the high priest's place in the courtyard right before Jesus was killed, and someone said, it was to Peter, I remember it now. Someone said, "You look familiar, Peter. Are you a disciple of Jesus?" And Peter said, "No, I'm not." He said, "No, he wasn't 3 times. And now Jesus is talking to Peter. What is he saying? "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter's saying, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." And Jesus is saying, "Feed my sheep." But then they had this conversation again and again, almost identically each time, 3 times. Maybe it's to balance out that bad chapter earlier in that courtyard. Maybe it's going to wipe that whole denial thing out. I don't know. Look at the other disciples. They look awfully tired too. They've been out on that boat fishing all night, feeling so discouraged because they weren't catching a thing all night. And yet now they've brought in a net full of fish, and Jesus is giving them breakfast. Wonderful breakfast, a hot breakfast after a long, cold night. Sometimes the Lord comes and speaks through a burning bush, sometimes through a voice in a cloud. Sometimes the Lord appears and raises the dead. Sometimes the Lord comes and does a miracle like feeding 5,000 people with the contents of one kid's lunchbox. And other times, he just shows up. And we think he's going to say something really profound, and all he says is, "Come and have breakfast. Come and have breakfast. Come and have breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. Come and have breakfast, and then feed my sheep." Here's the church. Here's the steeple. Open the doors. See all the people here and out in the world. Come and have breakfast, and then feed my sheep. Mike and I have a clergy friend who just writes beautifully. And this very morning, she wrote these words that appeared on our computers. Maybe you followed the recent story of 12 boys and a coach trapped in a cave. First, it was a story about whether they'd even be found. And then it was a story about whether they would make it out. And then finally, thankfully, it was a story about a heroic rescue. It seemed at first like a story about tempting fate, though, about a failure of responsibility. Why did they go in that cave in the first place with monsoon season about to arrive? How could the coach have allowed them to do that, much less led them all the way? If they died in that lightless underworld, Ekapol Chengawang would be to blame. But one of the waiting mothers saw it differently. She said, "If he didn't go with them, what would have happened to my child? My dear Ek, I could never blame you," she said. And then she added, "When he comes out, we have to heal his heart." When someone emerges from a cave, any cave, we entrap ourselves in so many different caves. When we emerge awash in guilt, expecting reprisal, knowing we deserve reproach, we could pile it on them. We could rub their noses in their recklessness, strap shame to their back and make them carry it around with them forever. Especially if they were careless with you or someone you loved, betrayed you or left you to suffer alone. We could tell them, you don't deserve us. We don't love you anymore. Or, while they're still lost and ashamed, we could build a fire. We could lay on some fish and some bread. And when they approach, perhaps on their knees, wanting to own the damage they've caused and their pain, we could tell them, "Come, have breakfast." We could make them pay, or we could heal their hearts and our own. Come and have breakfast. Come and have breakfast. Maybe that's how we feed the sheep. Come and have breakfast. Amen.